It wasn't supposed to go like this. One minute I was planning a family trip, the next, I was lying here in a hospital bed, alone. I can't even remember the crash, or the last time I heard my family's voices. But now, after weeks of waiting for them to come home from Rome, I find out they missed a voicemail. One voicemail that could change everything. Before we continue, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I honestly love reading each one. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Now, enjoy the story. My name is Carol, and I've been a mother for over 30 years. I'm 55 with a life built on routines, family dinners, and that unspoken belief that things always stay the same until they don't. I work as an office manager at a small law firm in downtown, and every morning I wake up at 6 a.m., start the coffee, feed the dog, and check in with my family. My husband, Jerry, and our 2 grown kids, Grace and Max. We're not perfect, but we've always stuck together. That morning, though, was different. It was the morning before I was supposed to drop them off at the airport for their vacation in Rome, something they'd been looking forward to for months. I didn't know then that it would be the last day I saw them before the crash. "Mom, I need you to promise me something," Grace said while packing her suitcase. She was 28, a little too obsessed with her career as a marketing exec, but I could tell she was excited about this trip. "Don't go crazy with the house while we're gone, okay?" "Crazy?" "You know me," I laughed, standing by the door with the coffee in hand, trying to sound light. But honestly, I was nervous about the trip. Jerry had never traveled much, and Grace and Max, well, they had a way of making everything seem like a vacation. But for me, it was a reminder of how much I was getting left behind. I tried to shake off the feeling, but something was nagging at me. I kissed Jerry goodbye at the door. "Are you sure about this?" I asked. "You'll be okay, right? In Rome, I mean?" He looked at me, adjusting his suit jacket. "Of course, we'll be fine, Carol. Don't worry." But the way he said it didn't sit well with me. As they walked out of the door, I felt this pit in my stomach, a sense of foreboding that I couldn't shake. It felt like my entire world was about to shift. That evening, I climbed into my car to run some errands, nothing big. A quick trip to the grocery store, then back home to take care of things. I was halfway through a quiet intersection when everything went black. I don't know if it was a car coming from the other direction or just a slip of my foot, but the next thing I remember was waking up in the hospital. My head throbbed and my body was screaming in pain. The beeping of machines echoed, and when I tried to move, sharp stabs of pain made me gasp. "Carol, can you hear me?" I heard Jerry's voice, soft but panicked. I opened my eyes slowly, trying to focus. There he was, standing by my bed, his face pale and drawn. What happened? Where's the kids?" I could barely speak, but I had to know. The questions flooded my mind. "They're on their way back. You were in an accident, honey. A bad one." He brushed a hand through his hair, clearly shaken. And that was when everything started to unravel, piece by piece. But it wasn't just the crash. It was the realization that somehow my family wasn't around when I needed them most. Days blurred together. My body was bruised and broken, but my mind was still reeling from the guilt that gnawed at me. I couldn't stop thinking. What if I had made better choices? What if I had been there when they left? It wasn't supposed to happen like this. It's strange how the world feels smaller when you're lying in a hospital bed, unable to move. I spent days staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of everything while my body tried to heal itself. The painkillers dulled my senses, but they didn't numb the confusion or the emptiness that settled deep in my chest. My family was gone, in Rome, and I was left behind, alone in this sterile room. I had expected to hear from them, text messages, calls, anything, but there was nothing. It's not like Jerry to forget me, and Grace, she's always checking in. Max too. But for days, silence. I tried calling their phones, but only voicemail. The kind of voicemail that makes you feel even more invisible. The nurses kept saying they'd be home soon, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. It was as if the distance between me and them grew by miles every time I dialed the phone. Then came the one call I didn't expect. I was sitting in a haze of discomfort when my phone buzzed. It was the voicemail notification. I had nearly forgotten about it. The number was unrecognizable, but something about it made my heart skip a beat. Maybe, just maybe, it was from one of them. Maybe they were finally back in the loop, ready to pick up the pieces. I pressed play with trembling fingers. "Hey, Carol, it's Sam from the hospital. Listen, I just wanted to make sure you knew about the surgery. They're saying it's tomorrow morning. If you want to speak with Dr. Marcus, he's available in the morning around 8:30. Just wanted to make sure you're aware. Anyway, take care." My hand froze. I didn't recognize the name Sam. I didn't remember anything about a surgery. Was there something else I didn't know? I felt like I was losing control of my own life. I didn't know what to think. My stomach twisted. What had happened? I didn't know what surgery they were talking about, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I had missed something. But what? I had to make sense of this. I dialed Jerry's number again. Voicemail. "Jerry, please," I whispered to the phone, my voice breaking. "Please, call me back." That night, I lay awake, the weight of my isolation pressing down harder than the pain from my injuries. My family was miles away, and no matter how many times I tried to reach them, there was nothing. I wasn't sure who to trust anymore. The message from the hospital felt like it was telling me I had missed something, and it was starting to drive me crazy. What was I supposed to do when I didn't even know what was happening to me? And then the thought hit me. It wasn't just the accident that had left me feeling abandoned. It was the fact that somehow they'd forgotten about me. That voicemail wasn't just about surgery. It was a reminder of how far away they were. I couldn't help but wonder, if I had been there, would things have been different? I wasn't going to let it go. I couldn't. I spent the next few days in a kind of numb haze, waiting, trying to process, and mostly fighting the frustration that was slowly turning into anger. The pain in my body had become a constant companion, but it wasn't the worst part anymore. No, it was the helplessness. The feeling that I was out here, all alone, in a place where nothing was familiar, while my family was off in Rome, living their lives without a second thought. Every time I glanced at my phone, hoping for a text or a call, I was met with silence. That voicemail from Sam, I couldn't forget it. I couldn't stop thinking about it. What had he meant by the surgery? Why had no one told me? Why didn't Jerry or anyone else call me to let me know what was going on? The anger started to bubble up. I wasn't the kind of person who lashed out without cause, but it was getting harder to keep it all inside. Jerry's unreturned calls were the worst. My stomach churned with the thoughts of him, my husband, my partner, on vacation, while I was stuck in this sterile, lifeless room. But then the voicemail came. This time, it wasn't Sam. It was a familiar number, one I hadn't seen in days. Grace. My heart jumped, the first bit of excitement in what felt like forever. Maybe now she'd explain why they hadn't been in touch. Maybe now everything would make sense. I quickly pressed play. "Mom?" Her voice was tight, almost like she'd been crying. I don't know how to say this, but there's been some stuff going on here. Some issues. We missed a lot of your messages and, well, I need to talk to you. You won't believe this, but the hotel got a voicemail for you. They thought you were one of the family members already here." Wait, what? I stopped the voicemail. I rewound it and played it again. I could feel my hands trembling as I listened to Grace's words, my mind racing with 100 different thoughts. A voicemail for me? Had they really missed something that big? My mind flashed back to the voicemail Sam left me, and suddenly I wasn't sure what I was supposed to believe anymore. I dialed Grace's number, my fingers shaking. She picked up quickly. "Mom?" she said, her voice low. "Are you okay? Grace, what is going on?" I didn't mean to sound frantic, but I couldn't help it. Why hasn't anyone called me? Why was I left in the dark about everything? And what voicemail? What do you mean, a voicemail at the hotel? There was a long pause on the other end, like she was trying to figure out what to say. Finally, she spoke, her voice wavering slightly. "I don't know, Mom. Something happened when we were in Rome. There were some issues with the trip, and we didn't get to check in the way we should have. You know how chaotic everything was with the flight delays, and then, well, things got messy. I could hear the guilt in her voice, and it made my frustration flare even higher. So you just forgot about me? You forgot to check in? Grace, I was in an accident. I could have been dead, and no one even told me what was going on. Not one call. Mom, she whispered, her voice breaking. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen. There was just so much going on, and we didn't realize we missed your messages until it was too late. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. I didn't know if I was angrier with her, with Jerry, or with myself for even believing things might have been different. But I had no time to dwell on that. There was something more important now. What about this voicemail? I asked, trying to steady my voice. What is it? Why didn't you get it? Grace was quiet for a moment, like she was struggling with her next words. It was from the hospital, the one where you were staying. They said they had a message for you. Something about your surgery, about me and Max coming to see you sooner. I don't really know the details, but that's all I know. The hotel receptionist told us about it when we got back. I couldn't believe it. They hadn't even told me about a surgery? Not once, not even when I was in the hospital. My mind spun with confusion and anger. Why had they left me in the dark like this? Why hadn't they given me the information I needed when I needed it the most? I'm coming back home soon, Grace said softly. We'll fix everything, Mom. We'll be there. But as I hung up, I couldn't help but feel this gnawing sense of betrayal. There were still so many unanswered questions. I needed to get to the bottom of this, and I wasn't going to wait for anyone else to do it for me. I would find out what was really going on, one way or another. The room felt smaller as the days passed, the weight of unanswered questions pressing down on me harder than the constant pain from my injuries. My phone had become both a lifeline and a torment. With every missed call, with every voicemail, I felt like I was sinking deeper into a place I wasn't sure I could climb out of. But that wasn't the worst of it. The worst part was that I had begun to doubt everyone around me. Jerry, Grace, Max, none of them seemed to have the answers I needed. None of them seemed to know what was happening, but it was clear they were all hiding something from me. The longer I lay there, the more it felt like I was drifting away from the people I had trusted my entire life. The phone buzzed again, snapping me from my thoughts. I didn't recognize the number. Hesitating for only a moment, I answered. Hello? Mrs. Andrews? The voice was cold, unfamiliar. It didn't sound like anyone I knew. This is Dr. Marcus from the hospital. We've been trying to reach your family, but there's been a delay. I wanted to check in on you and discuss your procedure. I swallowed hard, sitting up in my bed as panic crept into my chest. My family? What procedure? I don't know anything about this. Dr. Marcus cleared his throat. We had scheduled surgery to repair the damage to your leg. The complications from the accident. It was a priority, but without family approval, we had to hold off. I felt my head spinning, but why didn't anyone tell me? Why didn't Jerry call or Grace? The doctor's voice softened slightly, though it still carried an air of professionalism that seemed too detached. I don't know, Mrs. Andrews. Your family wasn't available. I tried to leave messages, but it's been difficult to get in touch. It wasn't just the surgery that was the problem. It was everything that had come before it. All of the pieces were starting to click into place in a way that made my blood run cold. I had been abandoned by my own family. I need answers, doctor. I need to know what's going on, who's been involved, and why I've been left in the dark like this. There was a pause on the other end, followed by a sigh. I can't speak on the personal matters of your family, Mrs. Andrews, but I can tell you this. We'll be here to help with the next steps. Once we have consent, we can proceed. Please have your family reach out when they can. I hung up the phone, my hands shaking. I wanted to throw the thing across the room. Every new piece of information only left me more confused, more lost. Why hadn't they told me about the surgery? Why had I been treated like a stranger in my own life? It was time to take matters into my own hands. I called Grace again. This time, I wasn't going to wait for her to apologize. I wasn't going to give her an easy out. I needed her to understand just how much she had failed me. She picked up on the second ring. Mom, I know what you're going to say, she said, her voice tense. No, I snapped, cutting her off. You don't know what I'm going to say. I want to know why you didn't tell me about the surgery, why you didn't answer my calls, why no one told me I was being left here to rot in this damn place while you were off having fun in Rome." She was quiet for a long moment, and when she finally spoke, her voice was small, defeated. "Mom, we didn't mean to ignore you. We didn't. There's just so much going on over here. Things got out of hand. The hotel, the travel problems, the missed messages. It's just been a mess." I didn't want excuses. I needed her to own it. "Grace, I could have died. And you didn't even check in with me. I don't care about your vacation problems. You weren't even here when I needed you the most. I'm sorry, Mom." Her words were like a soft whisper now, guilt weighing heavily on them. "I know it doesn't fix anything, but I really am sorry." Her apology didn't fix the gaping hole in my chest. It didn't make the betrayal feel any less real. "I want you to come home, right now. I don't care about the rest of your trip. I'm your mother, Grace, and I need you here. You have no idea what I've been through. There was a long pause, and I could hear her breathing deeply. "I'll talk to Max. We'll figure this out. We'll be back as soon as we can." I hung up before she could say anything else. I didn't need to hear more of the same empty words. I was done with apologies for now. I needed them to act, to show me they cared. But I didn't trust them anymore. I sat in the sterile hospital room staring at the blank walls, trying to focus on something other than the crushing sense of abandonment I felt. The more I thought about it, the more it hit me. I hadn't just been left behind by my family. I had been left behind by everyone who was supposed to protect me. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with this feeling, but I knew I had to act. The truth was out there, and I wasn't going to let anyone hide it from me anymore. The days dragged on after Grace's promise to come back, but I didn't believe her. She was just words, more excuses. I could feel it in my bones, and the longer I stayed in that room, the more I realized that the only one who would actually figure this out was me. I couldn't sit here waiting for my family to rescue me. I had to save myself. I spent hours staring at the phone, trying to decide what to do next. I couldn't stop thinking about the voicemail I'd received from Dr. Marcus. I couldn't stop replaying the tone in his voice, the subtle indifference in the way he spoke about my surgery. It was clear that no one really cared about what I had been going through. I needed to dig deeper, I needed answers, and I was going to get them no matter how far I had to go. I picked up the phone again and dialed the hospital's main line, my fingers steady despite the turmoil inside me. "Hello, this is Carol Andrews," I said when the receptionist picked up. "I'm calling about a surgery that was scheduled for me. I need to speak with Dr. Marcus or someone who can give me more details." The receptionist hesitated. "Let me check his schedule, Mrs. Andrews, one moment." I could feel my heartbeat thumping in my chest as I waited. This wasn't just about the surgery anymore. It was about everything. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I had been kept in the dark for a reason. Someone was hiding something from me, and I wasn't going to let them. The receptionist returned after a moment. "Dr. Marcus is unavailable right now, but I can schedule a call for you. Would you prefer that?" "Schedule a call?" I scoffed, frustration slipping into my voice. "No, I don't want a call. I need to speak to him now. This is urgent." There was a brief pause followed by the sound of her typing. "I'll mark it as urgent and let him know. He'll get back to you as soon as possible." I hung up, not feeling the relief I thought I would. That wasn't enough. I needed more. I needed to find out what had really happened, why my family had been so absent, why there were voicemails and messages I hadn't received, and why the hospital wasn't telling me the truth. I couldn't wait any longer. I grabbed my crutches and, with more effort than I cared to admit, swung myself out of the hospital bed and toward the door. I wasn't going to wait for anyone's permission anymore. I was going to walk out of that room even if I had to drag myself. I made my way to the front desk, ignoring the pain in my leg, my frustration building with every step. The receptionist glanced up at me, startled, but didn't say anything. "I'm here to speak to someone about my surgery," I said firmly, leaning heavily on my crutches. "I need answers." Her eyes flickered with confusion, but she nodded, standing up and walking to the back. My heart was racing as I waited. I had no idea who I was going to talk to or what I'd find out, but I had come this far. I wasn't going to back down now. The receptionist returned with a nurse in tow. The nurse, a woman in her late 30s with short dark hair, looked at me with a mixture of concern and professionalism. "Mrs. Andrews," she said softly, her voice calm but firm, "you shouldn't be out of bed. Let me help you back to your room." "No," I snapped, taking a deep breath. "I'm not going anywhere until I get some answers. I need to know what's going on with my surgery. Why wasn't I informed properly? Why has no one told me what's happening with my treatment?" The nurse blinked, then hesitated. She clearly wasn't used to patients who demanded answers, but I didn't care. I wasn't here to play nice. "I can help you, Mrs. Andrews, but we need to do this properly," the nurse said. "Let me take you back to your room so we can call Dr. Marcus. I can get him on the phone for you." I shook my head. "No, I'm not going back to my room. I need to see Dr. Marcus now. If you can't help me, I'll find someone who will." The nurse's eyes narrowed slightly, and for a moment I thought she might challenge me. But instead she sighed and nodded. "All right, I'll get someone who can assist you. Please wait here." As she walked away, I could feel my pulse quicken. I had to know the truth. I couldn't let them keep me in the dark anymore. My entire world had been turned upside down, and the more I thought about it, the more I realized it wasn't just about the surgery. It was about everything. My family, my marriage, the way they had all abandoned me when I needed them the most. I couldn't keep living like this, not anymore. Just as I was about to sit down, a man in a white coat approached me. "Dr. Marcus." "Mrs. Andrews," he said, his voice calm but serious. "I understand you've been looking for answers. I'm Dr. Marcus. I believe we need to discuss what's been happening with your care." Finally someone who could explain all the pieces. "I don't understand why I haven't been properly informed about my treatment," I said, my voice shaking with pent-up frustration. "I've been waiting for weeks for answers, and no one has told me what's really going on." Dr. Marcus didn't flinch. He looked me in the eye, unflinching. "I can assure you, Mrs. Andrews, we've been following standard protocol. The issue here was that your family was difficult to contact. We could not proceed without their consent." I leaned in, glaring at him. "Why didn't you contact me? Why didn't anyone tell me what was going on? Why have I been left to figure this out on my own?" He paused, then glanced around, almost nervously, before leaning closer. "The truth is, there was a breakdown in communication. Your family missed critical updates and some of the paperwork didn't go through. But now that we're in touch, we can move forward. I assure you, Mrs. Andrews, we'll handle this with the utmost care." I swallowed hard, trying to keep my emotions in check. The anger that had been building inside me surged again. "You're telling me that my family, my own family, wasn't available to help me, and no one thought to let me know what was going on? I was left here alone, struggling to understand what was happening to me, and no one did a thing." Dr. Marcus shifted uncomfortably, his eyes darting away. Save it!" I cut him off. "You don't get to pretend everything's fine now. I've been forgotten, left behind, and I'm not going to forget that." There was a long, tense silence. I didn't care. I wasn't here for apologies. I was here for the truth. "Now," I said, my voice steady but low, "I'm not going anywhere until I get the answers I deserve." The hours that followed felt like a blur. I sat in that sterile hallway, surrounded by the dull hum of fluorescent lights and the quiet murmurs of hospital staff. My heart still raced from the confrontation with Dr. Marcus, but the rage inside me had cooled into something more calculating. I had learned more than I expected, but not enough. The answers he'd provided only scratched the surface. I knew I had to dig deeper. It wasn't just about the surgery anymore. It wasn't even about the family vacation in Rome or the missed messages. No, this had become something much bigger. I had been betrayed on a level I hadn't even realized until now, and the more I thought about it, the clearer the picture became. Something wasn't just wrong with my family. It was wrong with everything I had trusted. I spent the next hour on the phone with the hospital's legal department, pushing harder than I ever had before. They hemmed and hawed, but I kept pressing. Every person I spoke to passed me off to another, but I was relentless. I demanded copies of my medical records, insisted on speaking to the department heads, and refused to accept anything less than full transparency. My family was still unreachable, and I was starting to think that maybe I didn't want to talk to them after all. They had already made it clear that I didn't matter enough to be prioritized. But I wasn't about to give up. I had no other choice but to fight. Then, just as I was about to dial Jerry's number one last time, a nurse appeared in the hallway, holding a piece of paper. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with concern. "Mrs. Andrews," she said hesitantly, looking around as if to make sure no one was listening. "There's something I need to show you. You need to see this." I pushed myself up, crutches scraping against the floor, a cold rush of dread shooting through me. "What is it?" She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "It's a report about your family. There's something in it that doesn't match up with what you've been told." I frowned, instinctively reaching for the paper, my heart pounding in my chest. "What are you talking about?" The nurse glanced over her shoulder nervously. "I shouldn't be showing you this, but this information could be important." I took the paper from her, my hands shaking as I unfolded it. What I read made my blood run cold. The report was from the hospital's administrative office. It listed the names of the people who had authorized various procedures, including my own care. My family's names were on there, but there were discrepancies. People I had never heard of were listed as contacts. The worst part? There were notes about delayed consent from my so-called family and references to my unavailability for consultation. It was a mess. "I don't understand," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "Who are these people? Why are their names on my medical files?" The nurse looked at me sadly, clearly conflicted. "I don't know, Mrs. Andrews, but I think you need to find out. The names on that sheet don't match up with the people who should have been involved in your care." It was like a bolt of lightning hit me. My whole world seemed to shift, everything I thought I knew about my family and my life being upended. Someone had manipulated the system. They had used my family's names to authorize things without their knowledge, or worse, without their consent. And I had a sinking feeling I knew exactly who was behind it. I turned on my heel, my crutches clicking against the floor as I made my way back toward the front desk. My mind was racing. The name that had been circling my thoughts for days finally crystallized in my mind. Max. Max was the one who had always been the most controlling, the one who had always stepped in to manage things when Jerry wasn't around. He had always been the one to make things happen. I had trusted him more than anyone else. But now I wasn't so sure. I needed to confront him. I didn't bother with the receptionist this time. I marched straight into the back to the offices where I knew the administrative staff would be. The receptionist tried to stop me, but I was already past her, pushing open doors until I found what I was looking for: Max. He was standing in front of a desk, reviewing some papers when he looked up and saw me. His expression went from surprise to something more guarded, like he had been expecting this moment. "Mom," he said, his voice neutral, "what are you doing back here?" I didn't mince words. "I need to know everything. You've been involved in all of this, haven't you?" His face didn't change, but his jaw tightened. "What are you talking about? You're not making any sense." I held up the paper I had been given. "I'm talking about this, about the report with the names that don't belong, about how you've been using our family's name to authorize things behind my back. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me what was going on?" He stepped back, visibly shaken, and for the first time I saw a crack in his perfect composure. "You don't understand, Mom. This is complicated. It wasn't supposed to be like this." "Complicated?" I repeated, my voice rising. "You've been making decisions for me, without telling me. You let me sit here, alone, while you played some sick game behind the scenes. I trusted you, Max." His eyes flickered with something: regret? Guilt? But it was gone as quickly as it had appeared. "I didn't want to hurt you. I thought I was protecting you." "Protecting me?" I almost laughed bitterly. "By keeping me in the dark? By using my name, my life, without asking me? That's not protection, Max. That's control, and I won't stand for it." His face reddened as he struggled to find the words. "You don't know everything. There are things you don't understand." "No," I said, shaking my head, my voice low and firm. "You don't get to control the narrative anymore. This stops now. I'm not your puppet. I'm not your pawn in whatever twisted game you've been playing. For a long moment, we stood in silence, the weight of the truth between us. Finally, Max spoke, his voice barely audible. I'm sorry, Mom. I really am. I didn't mean to hurt you. The apology felt hollow. I wanted to believe it, I really did, but I knew better. I had been hurt too many times by too many people to forgive him so easily. You can't undo what's been done, I said softly, but you can start by telling me everything. You owe me that much. Max hesitated, but finally his shoulders slumped and he nodded. I'll tell you everything. And as the truth started to unravel in front of me, layer by layer, piece by piece, I knew my fight wasn't over. It had only just begun. The real battle was yet to come,